What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today Apple released iOS 17.4.1 to the general public a few weeks after the release of iOS 17.4. Now along with this iOS update, Apple also released iPadOS 17.4.1, iOS 16.7.7 for older devices, and also visionOS 1.1.1. And we should be seeing the macOS, watchOS, and tvOS updates coming soon as well, but they were not released at the same time as the previously mentioned updates. Now, you can see here the size of this update. It came in just over 400 megabytes on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which was coming from iOS 17.4. And we'll talk about why you might have seen a bigger size than that here in a second. But let's go ahead and check out the new build number for this update. So if we head into our settings, general about, we could see the new build number is 21E236. So we saw a leaked build number earlier this week, but that turned out to be wrong. We are one build ahead of that. And then as far as the modem firmware goes, it remains at 1.55.04, which is the same as iOS 17.4. Now I want to quickly address something I saw a lot of people mentioning over in the Discord server and over on X. So if you saw 17.4.1 initially show up as a beta update, just know that that is typical. It takes a couple of minutes for Apple to sort it out. Mine showed up instantly without beta updates turned on, like I had beta updates turned off, and my update showed up instantly. So I guess it just depends on your device, but if you had beta updates on and it showed up, you may have seen a large size. So it may have shown like 6 gigabytes as the size for 17.4.1 if you had beta updates turned on. Now, if you turn that off, that's when you'll see it go to a smaller, 300 to 400 megabyte size. So just know that little trick moving forward, and just know that this is a final release. iOS 17.4.1 is a final release. It's not a beta. It's not an RC. Everybody got this update, whether you had beta updates turned on or off. I think some people kind of get confused sometimes when there is a public update and they get that when they're on a beta. But the reason for that is because typically the beta version is a build ahead. So like if we were on 17.5 betas right now, obviously nobody on the beta would receive 17.4.1 because that's a lower build. Typically by the time a double point update like a 17.4.1 comes out, the next version's beta has started. So that's why it's kind of confusing for some people, because it doesn't typically happen where we have a double point update before the next version is being beta tested. I hope that made sense. All right, so now what's new here in iOS 17.4.1? Now, as you guys know, if you've been watching the channel, these double point updates are never intended to be a major release. You're never going to see anything visually change with these updates. You're never going to see any features get added with these updates. These are typically only going to be released to patch bugs and patch security vulnerabilities. And that's exactly the case here with iOS 17.4.1. So if you look around the whole OS, you're not going to see anything that has changed physically. However, there are changes on the back end. Now, unfortunately, Apple did not share anything. Like if you go in here, you can go into the iOS version and it shows the release notes there. Apple just says, this update provides important bug fixes and security updates and is recommended for all users, but they don't say anything else. They do not provide any information as to what has been fixed in terms of the bug fixes part. Now, when it comes to the security updates, Apple does usually post about these, and you can see that here on their security updates page. However, you'll notice that for iOS 17.4.1, along with the iOS 16.7.7 and visionOS 1.1.1, it just shows details coming soon. So I've waited a little while. I've been waiting for this to be updated, but it still has not updated. We still do not have details as to what security patches were included in this update. I'm sure we will see that, by the end of today or potentially tomorrow. And when we do, I will discuss that in a video. It should be out. It should be updated by Saturday when my Apple Weekly episode goes out. So just stay tuned for that video because I will share everything that has been patched in that video. Now, Apple did mention one bug fix for iPadOS 17.4.1, and it says resolves an issue scanning QR codes on certain iPad models. And Apple did also put out a support document that showed what those models were. So it was the iPad 7, iPad 6, iPad Pro 12.9, the second generation, and also iPad Pro 10.5. So all of those iPads must have had issues scanning QR codes, and that has now been addressed with 17.4.1. And when it comes to the performance and the battery life, performance is going to be about the same on 17.4.1 as it was on iOS 17.4. I would not really expect any type of change. Now, I did run a Geekbench test here, and you can see we scored a 2947 on the single core and a 7307 on the multi-core on 17.4.1, and we can compare that to the box below it, which was iOS 17.4, the final public release, and weeks after the final release. Or a week after the final release. And you can see it does have a higher single core and also a higher multi-core. So it does look like, you could potentially see a performance boost here with 17.4.1, at least in terms of the Geekbench scores, but that doesn't usually translate to a big difference in day-to-day usage. And especially going from, a 0.4 to a 0.4.1, I would imagine there's hardly going to be any difference, if at all, with this update in terms of performance. And then when it comes to the battery life, I would say the battery life is going to be pretty much the same situation as the performance. I would not expect anything to be changed here with battery life unless you were having some type of major issue with battery drain. Like if you had a major bug that caused battery drain or something like that, you might see a fix here. But typically, again, you don't really see battery life updates or any type of fix unless it's mentioned in the release notes, which even that is pretty rare. So don't have your hopes up too high for performance or battery life improvements with this update. It could happen, but mainly it's going to affect those who had issues on 17.4. If 17.4 is running fine for you, expect 17.4.1 to also run fine for you. So we need to talk about what's coming next for Apple, because the past few weeks have been a roller coaster ride in terms of Apple releasing software. We've had no release at all, this whole week, all of last week, and all of the week before, besides when we got 17.4 on the week of March 4th there. So we pretty much went at least 2 weeks without getting a software update. And that is very rare for Apple, this time of year. So, I would say that we are going to see 17.5 beta 1 as early as next week, the week of March 25th, most likely on March 26th. That is when Apple does typically release those beta updates. But as I've said for the past couple of weeks, it's hard to guess with Apple. Apple really has their own schedule. Nobody really knows exactly when something's going to be released. We only have past history to go off of. And since 17.4 was rushed out by the EU, that put things behind internally, potentially at Apple. And then also we have the new iPads that are coming out pretty soon, and those could contain references, or there could be references in 17.5 code to those new iPads. So Apple might not want to put that out until they've announced the new iPads, which again, those could also be announced as early as next week. But as far as a 17.5 final release, I would not expect that until sometime at this point, late April, maybe on the 29th, or sometime in May would be my guess for 17.5. And then lastly, I just want to address the question of should you update or not. So I would say that if you are a beta tester, you might as well just go ahead and skip 17.4.1. Like, unless you want to keep your device as secure as possible for the next, potentially less than a week, then I would say you may as well just skip 17.4.1 and wait for iOS 17.5 beta 1, because you're not really going to see any improvements with 17.4.1, at least in terms of features and changes. But if you're somebody who is just running the public releases, like, the majority of people, then sure, go ahead and update to 17.4.1. It's going to keep your device as secure as possible. We did have a higher Geekbench score, so you could see potentially better performance. And if you had any bugs, you really have nothing to lose at this point, because 17.4.1 could patch those for you, even though Apple didn't say exactly what has been fixed. But anyways, guys, that was a quick video on iOS 17.4.1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I would appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the Apple Weekly episode on Saturday, along with more iOS update videos. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.